Hi everyone, this is Sharon. Today I have a journal flip through for you. This is a custom ordered prayer journal for Angela, and Angela had requested a journal that had an old world feel to it, so that's what I attempted to accomplish with this journal. I tied it up with this beautiful kind of mushroom colored velvet ribbon. I tried many different buckles and clasps for the front of this cover, and they all just seemed to clash too much with this beautiful cross on the cover. So I landed on this pretty simple, but I think it's beautiful, a shell buckle. And so this just slips out of there. I think this is probably one of the most beautiful book covers that I've ever worked with in my journals. I just absolutely love it. Once in a while you come across something that's really gorgeous, and I love everything about this beautiful gold cross that's embossed, and then the embossing around the outside, and the patina and wear on it is just perfect, I think. And then the back cover is equally as nice. Usually they're more plain, but this one has this beautiful gold chalice on it, and I just think it's gorgeous. I had to recreate the spine, so I used this upholstery fabric for the spine. The spine is about 2.5 inches, and I'll put the rest of the dimensions down in the description. It has 5 signatures and pretty well stuffed. And then heading on to the inside, I did not cover up the inside covers because I think they're just gorgeous. The patina, and then this dark plum kind of viney pattern on there, I think is just beautiful. So for the inside spine, I used this French ticking fabric. I used many different digital artists in this journal. A lot of my pages come from Roxy Creations Italian Churches kits, and then the ephemera and other things are a mixture. I've used a lot of old book pages and old ephemera in here as well. So on this first page, I just adorned this beautiful image with this wax seal and a little bit of ribbon on there, velvet ribbon. On this page, I created a pocket on the bottom, and then this is what the page looks like. And then in there, I added this journaling card. This page is some antique French music. And then throughout the journal, I've got some of these die-cut crosses in various sizes and patterns. So I added that there and did a little punching on this pocket. And then in there, I added this piece. So this I printed on some, I think this was tracing paper. And then I just attached it with some string to an old book page. On this page, I clipped on this beautiful rose image from a rose book that I have. I just love the delicate colors in there. This is what the background page looks like. And then I punched the bottom of that and attached it to one of the pages in this rose book. And this is the index, and it's got this particular rose, which is Marie Masquerade. And I just stitched those together up there. And I love how the colors in this go with this old vintage book page. And I just did some stenciling with paint on this side to give it that kind of old fresco look. And this is one of the original book pages from this book. It's got this beautiful etching on this side of the page, which is kind of tipped onto the title page. And you can see this book is dated 1863. It's a German book. Here I just added a stamp on the top, and this could be used for some journaling. On my strings, I just added this small little pearl button. Then on this side of the page, I've got this vellum belly band. And then in there, I tucked this original prayer card with this beautiful cut lace work on the side. And this is a page from a prayer book. last summer I was at a local flea market and I just happened to see this embroidered A, and I thought, okay, I am going to get that, and that's going to go in Angela's prayer book. So I just pinned that with a pin onto this kind of fabric embroidered doily, and then that's the back of the page. And then in there I tucked this kind of triptych piece that I made. So on this side it's got a landscape image with this beautiful church. I just added these star stencils on there and hinged the 3 panels with some cheesecloth. And then on this side I used this beautiful image from Tailor Made Journals. She's got a kit, I'm going to forget the name of it now. I'll put it in the description. I think it's some kind of coffee dyed papers, but the kit is just gorgeous. It's got some really neat patterns in it, and I thought this is still light enough to do some journaling on. This is one of the pages from the Roxy Creations kits. And then on this side, I just adorned the pocket with a little bit of lace. And then I've got another one of these tall, narrow images. And back that onto book page. Here I took a couple of these tags from Raindrop Lila and I attached them with some linen fabric, and then I just created them as kind of flips, and I backed them with lined paper so you could use it for writing. And then one of my all-time favorite background pages from Everlasting Journals. Here I created this belly band, and then in there I've got this, it's a faux prayer card. It's an image that I used to make this tag, and then I just back that with some decorative paper and this ribbon on the top. And then here's another tag that I made, another prayer card image. I just added a paper tab at the top and some string, and then I backed that with craft paper that I stenciled on. Here I've got some shorthand paper, and then I've just got this linen cloth piece that I stamped. Here I created this corner tuck, and I just kind of trimmed that out with some sari ribbon. It's kind of variegated, so you get different colors, and I thought those went well with this image. And then I just added a full button in the corner. And then I have this image of Jesus, backed it with some waxed straw paper. This is the blue. And then I layered in some of the gold in between there as well. And then on the back side, I just added this belly band and tucked in some writing paper and just kind of trimmed that up with this fabric piece that I did some decorative stitching on. Here I've got some beautiful background paper that goes nicely with this lace belly band. And then in there I've got this tag of this stag. This is from the Paper Cameo. I just added some of this dotted tulle to the top. And then this image of the chalice. And some embossed paper on the back. And my new favorite washi tape from Lace Boutique One, Anna. And I love the colors in that one. So I've added that on the back. Some more of the original book pages. Here I have got this top corner tuck, and then in there I've got this piece that I made. I just put the eyelets in there with some string. And then I've got a number of these Bible verses and scriptures in here from Raindrop Lila. Here's another one. I just added some lace to the bottom of this tag. Angela had asked me to put in a special page or spot for her cat who she lost recently, and so I thought the center of this signature would be the perfect place for that. So I kind of encased it in this tulle panel, some dotted tulle, And then in the center of this signature, I put this original love letter envelope with the love letter inside, and it's addressed to my adorable Felix. And I don't know about you, but if you're of a certain age, Felix is always reminds me of a cat. And I think it's because of a cartoon that I watched when I was younger, but I just thought that was kind of appropriate to add as a love letter from Angela to her cat. I don't know what her cat's name is, but so I backed the letter onto the envelope, and that creates a couple of rather large pockets where she can add in photos, mementos, do what she would like in there. I've added some tags that she can use, or she can not, she doesn't have to use them, but there's a place for writing on the back of these if she wants to use these here. And then I just added these bird images to the front. So those tuck in there. I've also added a label where she can put her cat's name or whatever she would like to on there. And also, Angela, I left these strings in the center extra long. So if you wanted to hang something on there that reminds you of your cat, you can. If not, you could clip those off. But I'll just leave those in the center. Another beautiful image. I just added some punched metallic paper on that page. Over on this side, I've got this First Communion photo. I thought that was kind of neat, a vintage one. And then I've made this journaling card with this beautiful image on the front. And then I backed it with this beautiful gold paper, or fabric, I should say, not paper. And then I added this beautiful label to the back. Here I've got another lace belly band with that pretty lace and a beautiful background page. And then in there I tucked this card that I made. I used the wax seal as my tab. And then on the back I added this panel that I stitched on of fabric. And then I just have this embossed paper on there. But I thought it would be a neat little place to do some secret journaling. And then I also have this tag, again with the stag image, and then I just added this little laundry label to the bottom. And at the top I've got this little metal on there, and then I just kind of punched and added this panel offcut from the music paper that could be used for journaling, and the old book, German book page on the back. Here I have my favorite nun image that I usually put in my prayer journals. I just added this beautiful braided trim to the bottom and some writing room on the back. Here I've got another one of those side tucks that I added here I added lace and the sari ribbon to that. And then in there I created this little booklet. And on the inside covers, I did this two-tone stencil on there with ink, and I just love the way that came out. It's very three-dimensional. And then I just added some pages, some nice old ledger paper that can be used for writing on. Here in this pocket, I've got a couple of pieces of ephemera. So this is an original prayer card. I've got this photo. It's in Italian, from an Italian kind of photo pack from the Uffizi Museum. And then I've got this I pulled out of the book. It was tucked in the pages, and so I thought it should come along with the journal. It's just a magazine article. Here I added this beautifully embroidered kind of linen panel. On this page I added this kind of a journaling piece. I had this tucked in there, this beautiful image that's waxed up. And then there's plenty of journaling space in here. This is some piano roll paper. Here in this pocket, I've got another piece of paper that I found in this book, and it's a guardian angel prayer. So I just added that. This is a page from a book I have on Italian architecture. I just punched the edges of that. And then I left this bottom loose so I could keep the entire image. And you can see both images on both sides, the full length, and it's got a description of these churches at the bottoms. And then in those little tuck spots, I've got these two items. So this is just a floating pocket that I made, and I tucked in some beautiful floral images from a floral book that I have. And then this one's similar. Just flip that back up again. This is an image. I believe this is from one of Roxy Creations kits. And then I just added this die cut cross and this little bead in the middle there. Here on this page, I created a corner tuck with these two strips of velvet ribbon. That's what the page looks like. And then in there, I've got this tag that I made. I've got this kind of tapestry ribbon at the top, a wax seal, and then some lined paper on the back. And then this is probably a vintage postcard. And I just added an original stamp onto the back of that. This is a church ceiling. On this side of the page, I made this piece. I'm just going to slide this tie off of there. So it's a long image of Mary and Jesus. And to the back, I just covered it with some pretty decorative paper. And then I stapled in like a little mini notebook. It can be used for some journaling. Here on this page, show you what the page looks like. I've got this piece, and this again is another kind of floating pocket. And I've got this little tuck spot in the back. Some nice botanical image there. And then I trimmed up at the bottom with this beautiful trim. And then in there, I added this journaling card. I love this beautiful face image, kind of a tablescape. Here's another page from the book. And then on this side, I did some stenciling with paste. And then I attached this journaling card. Again, I've got some decorative stitching on fabric at the bottom. And then I just added this antique end page from an old book to the back. On this side of the page, I added some mica, and I kind of distressed it a little bit so it maybe looks a little bit like broken glass or mirror. And I think it just adds a little bit to that image. I love this beautiful image. I didn't do anything with that. Here's some nice old ledger paper from the 1800s, and I just added this cross on there. And then on this side, I've got this wallpaper tab, and in there I tucked an old French postcard and this little plain card with the birds on it. On this side of the page, I created a corner tuck, and then in there I've got this little folder. And in here, I just added some of my watercolor swatches. And these flip out, and then I use this edge of a book page as my belly band, and then I just tuck some beautiful pieces of lace in there. Here I created this die cut fabric, this pocket. I've got this paper die cut over the top of a piece of fabric. And then in there I've got this tag, this beautiful image on this side, and I back that onto one of those silverware sacks that you get in restaurants. And then I just put this image on to the back and a little button there. And then in there I have this little tag that I made. And some writing room on the back. Here I just took some gold paint and added that to the edge of that book cover image. Here I've got a corner tuck, and then in there I've got this piece that I made. So I created this belly band. It's paper, and this little piece slides so you can open it. And I just did some stenciling on there. And then the base of this piece is a book page. So there's a couple of churches. One church image is from England and the other one is from France. And then in there, Angela had asked for an image of the Last Supper. So I got this treated napkin layer that just kind of overlays. And then I found this beautiful old sketching of the Last Supper, and I just love that. And I just back that with, again, some stenciling, a couple two-tone colors on there. It just all folds up. And then I edged it again with this Lace Boutique one washi tape. Here I just add a little bit of fabric and lace to the top of that page. In this top tuck, I've got this piece. So I took some string to wrap this little bundle up, and it's a piece of antique French fabric. I love it because it still has the hand stitching on this back side. And it's got some nice little worn holes in there. And that wraps around this old book page and this digital from Raindrop Lila. You can do some journaling there. And then this is a lacy image from my friend Renee, and I just embossed this piece. Here I did decorative punch on some store paper, adhered that to the page, and then over on this side I've got another side tuck here. And in there I've got this. I just added a little tab because it is kind of snug in there, so that helps to pull it out. That's the front and that's the back. This is actually a tag, and I just cut the tag off and inverted it, so that makes a nice little tuck spot on the top. And then I just added a little decorative button. This page I think is so beautiful. I just added some pretty lace to that. And then this is some onion skin paper, correspondence from the early 1900s. Created a pocket on this side. And then in there I've got this cross clip that I put on here. And again, it's like a little triptych sort of image that I just folded. And I added this paint chip as my tab on the back. So that kind of holds everything in place. And I backed it with this old envelope image. And this is the front. Here I created a belly band, and then in there I've got this antique check from 1894. Love the graphics on that one. Here I've got this little side flip out so you can see the whole image underneath. Take this pin off. That flips out. And then in there I've got this offcut from a ledger sheet. Beautiful handwriting on there. And then this antique French letter, and this one is dated 1864. It still has remnants of the wax seal on there. Here I created a couple of side tucks in the center, and then in there on this side I've got some embossed handmade paper. This one and this one has a couple of little embossed corners. And then on this side I've got this piece that I made, this beautiful image, and then this just folds out. I just added some trim on there and backed this with some music paper. And then I created a small little pocket in there and tucked in an old book page for writing. Here in this pocket, again, I've got another original prayer card. This vellum piece with this beautiful kind of plum scenery on it, and then this page from a prayer book. Some beautiful graphics on there. On this side of the page, I've got this altered envelope that I made into this kind of floating pocket. So the front, I just inserted this bird image in the window. It was a window envelope. And then I added this verse at the bottom. And then on the back side, I created this pocket, added a label, and then inserted this tag. So it's embossed and inked. And then I left some writing room on the back. And on this page, I added this beautiful, intricately cut black paper, kind of a trim over the church. And then on the last page, I just added another die cut cross to that. And that is the flip through of this prayer journal for Angela. I hope you enjoyed that today. Thank you so much for coming along with me. And until next time, bye-bye.